For the past 20 years, every probe we have sent to Europa has picked up the same signal coming from beneath its frozen surface. NASA tried to keep it classified. The European Space Agency could not explain it. Now, private space companies are racing to get there first. What might be hiding in Europa's ocean is not just strange. It could be the most significant discovery in human history. The signal pulses every 3.5 days. It is not random. It is not geological. It is coming from roughly 62 miles beneath the ice in an ocean we are only just beginning to understand. When Galileo Galilei spotted Europa through his telescope in 1610, he logged it as another dead moon, a frozen ball of rock orbiting the largest planet in our solar system. That assumption held for nearly 400 years. Then Voyager 2 flew past in 1979 and sent back images that changed the conversation entirely. Europa's surface was not cratered the way you would expect. It was almost completely smooth, covered in a network of dark crisscrossing lines that looked like cracks in an eggshell. But the stranger detail was the heat. Europa was giving off more thermal energy than a frozen moon that far from the sun should be capable of producing. The explanation turned out to be Jupiter. Its gravitational pull is so immense it physically stretches and compresses Europa as the moon orbits. That constant flexing generates heat through a process called tidal heating, and it generates enough to keep an entire ocean liquid beneath miles of ice. The Galileo spacecraft confirmed it in the 1990s. Europa has a subsurface ocean, more liquid water than all of Earth's oceans combined. In complete darkness, under an ice shell several miles thick, 400 million miles from the sun. That alone would be worth studying. But in 1997, during a close flyby just 124 miles above the surface, Galileo's magnetometer readings got strange. Europa was bending Jupiter's magnetic field around itself. The only explanation that fit was a global ocean of salty, electrically conductive water beneath the ice. That's when certain data sets started disappearing from public access. NASA doesn't classify planetary science without a reason. Weather patterns on Mars, volcanic activity on Io, surface compositions across dozens of moons are all public. But specific Europa telemetry from the Galileo mission was locked away for years, and when portions were eventually released, entire sections had been redacted. What researchers could confirm was this. In 2012, the Hubble Space Telescope detected massive plumes of water vapor erupting from Europa's surface, columns of vapor shooting 125 miles into space. That alone would have been remarkable. But the plumes were not random. They followed a pattern, the same 3.5-day cycle as the signal. Natural geysers do not behave like that. Old Faithful erupts roughly every 90 minutes, but the timing shifts constantly depending on temperature and pressure. Europa's plumes, by contrast, are precise to the minute, which is what got the attention of private space companies. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and others started developing Europa-focused missions around this time. Not Mars, not the Moon, Europa. And according to researchers who have spoken about this, data that was not being released publicly by NASA was circulating through European and Japanese space agencies. What that data showed was that the signal was not just a pulse. It had internal structure, patterns within patterns, mathematical relationships that do not show up in geological processes. One researcher who asked to remain anonymous described it as obviously artificial. In 2019, scientists reanalyzing old Galileo flight data found something that had either been missed or set aside. During the 1997 flyby, Galileo had actually passed through one of Europa's water plumes, and the chemical analysis from that encounter was striking. The water contained organic molecules, complex ones, the building blocks of carbon-based life. But the concentration levels were thousands of times higher than what simple chemical reactions would produce. To put that in context, Earth's oceans are full of life, from bacteria to blue whales. All of those organisms together produce a measurable background level of organic chemistry. The plume data from Europa suggested concentrations that would require something like an ecosystem to explain. A large, active ecosystem running in total darkness under miles of ice. But ecosystems do not broadcast timed signals. Here is where the signal gets genuinely strange. It is not coming from the ocean floor. It is not localized to hydrothermal vent regions. It appears to originate from something suspended in the water column, something that moves, and something that responds to external conditions. When Jupiter's radiation belts intensify, the signal changes. When Europa passes through Jupiter's shadow, the signal changes again. Whatever is producing it appears to be sensing conditions outside the ice shell. The harmonic analysis made things stranger still. The subtle frequency patterns embedded within the signal match a pattern found in one other context: neural networks. Specifically, the electrical signature of interconnected neurons firing in sequence. The signal from Europa resembles the activity of a brain. Before you build a mental image of some large creature in an alien ocean, here is what researchers are actually working with. On Earth, we have biofilms, colonies of microorganisms that communicate through chemical and electrical signals, and that can demonstrate collective behavior. They can navigate mazes, they retain memory of past conditions, they make group decisions, all without a central nervous system, all without a brain in any recognizable sense. Now take a biofilm and give it 4.5 billion years of uninterrupted evolution. No mass extinction events, no asteroid impacts penetrating the ice shell, no climate swings, just a stable, warm, mineral-rich ocean powered by constant tidal heating. You wouldn't end up with a biofilm. You'd end up with something else entirely. The current leading theory among researchers who have published on this is that Europa's ocean is not just inhabited. It functions as a single biological entity. A superorganism distributed across an entire ocean with the collective processing capacity of trillions of networked cells. An alien intelligence so fundamentally different from anything we have looked for that we almost overlooked it entirely because we were searching for fish or microbes or something that at least resembled life on Earth. Not for an ocean that might think. If that is accurate, then the 3.5-day pulses are not incidental. They are deliberate. They are output. This is the part that shifted the conversation from scientific curiosity to something more urgent. According to data that has since been verified by independent researchers, the signal is not broadcasting outward in all directions. It is focused, directed toward a specific point in space. That point moves in a way that maintains alignment with a moving target. That target is Earth. For at least 2 decades, possibly much longer, something in Europa's ocean has been sending a directed signal toward our planet. A signal with internal structure. A signal that pulses on a consistent rhythm. A signal we only intercepted because we finally got close enough to detect it. This raises a question researchers do not have a comfortable answer to. If the signal has been running for decades or centuries or longer, what was it doing before we were capable of receiving it? For 20 years, the pattern held. Same 3.5-day cycle, same focused transmission, same structure. Then, starting in 2023, it shifted. The pulses are coming faster. The signal is stronger, and the focus has changed. It is no longer broadly aimed at Earth. It is tracking our probes specifically. When the Juno spacecraft made a close flyby of Europa in 2022, the signal spiked. When the European Space Agency announced the JUICE mission would conduct detailed Europa observations, the signal's encoding changed. Whatever is in that ocean appears to know we are approaching. There is also a harder-to-explain pattern in the mission hardware. Galileo's main antenna failed to deploy correctly. Juno's cameras experienced glitches during the most critical Europa passes. The failures are spread across different agencies, different hardware generations, different engineering teams. The consistency is difficult to write off, whether that represents interference, some electromagnetic effect from the signal itself, or coincidence is not settled, but it is being taken seriously. Researchers working on this have largely organized around three possibilities. The first is that the signal is an invitation, a kind of test, checking whether we are advanced enough to detect it, decode it, and respond. The mathematical structure supports this interpretation. It is organized in ways that suggest it is meant to be parsed, not just observed. The second is that it is a warning, that something in Europa's ocean has been signaling "do not disturb" for a very long time, and we may be misreading the message because we want it to be an invitation. The third theory is harder to sit with. The organic molecule concentrations in the plumes are not just elevated, they have been increasing. The ocean is becoming more biologically active, and the signal's information density has been climbing exponentially. In 2003, the encoded bursts within the carrier signal came roughly every hour. By 2013, every 30 minutes. By 2023, every 10 minutes. That is not a pattern that fits an invitation or a warning. That is a pattern that fits something trying to transmit as much as possible before it runs out of time. Jupiter's radiation output has been gradually increasing. Europa's orbit is slowly decaying, pulling it toward more intense radiation exposure. After 4.5 billion years of stability, the external environment around Europa is changing. And if whatever is in that ocean is biological, radiation is a real threat. What if it is not trying to make contact? What if it is trying to transmit itself, not physically, informationally? The mathematical structure of the signal has been compared to genetic code, layered, redundant, structured, like something meant to be reconstructed from the data alone. 4.5 billion years of uninterrupted evolution. An intelligence so distributed it spans an entire ocean, trying to send itself somewhere safe before something ends it. NASA's Europa Clipper mission is scheduled to arrive at Europa in 2030. It will fly through the water plumes, and it will sample the chemistry directly. It will get closer to the source of the signal than anything we have ever sent there. That mission was planned before most of this data became public. It was not designed with any of this in mind, and it is going anyway. Whatever is generating that signal has been patient. It maintained the same pattern for at least 2 decades before shifting. It has been aiming at Earth since before we had the technology to confirm it was aimed at anything. And in the past 2 years, it has gotten louder. We do not know what is waiting down there. We do not know if Europa Clipper triggers something, answers something, or just confirms what has already been decided. But we are going, whether we are ready or not. The signal continues, every 3.5 days getting stronger, and in 2030, we are going to fly right through it.